the pessimism that America has imposed on the global population, and you see it in some of the comments of people thinking that nothing can be done, that it's a losing battle, that America can never be brought to account, and so forth. This is the only power that America has left, is your pessimism. So the country that you are wishing would be brought to account, but you believe it never can be held to account, you're helping them. By your pessimism, you're helping them. You are enabling American injustice by your pessimism about ever being able to bring America to justice. That's the power that they have now, because their actual relative power in the world is in steep decline and has been for over a decade. Their actual relative power, relative to other powers in the world, and collections of powers in the world, collections of states like BRICS, for example, and China and Russia, and the countries in Africa, their power, their relative power is increasing, and America's relative power is decreasing. America's percentage of the global GDP is a fraction of what it was when the United Nations was established. They don't have the power, they don't have the pull, they don't have the clout, they don't have the muscle that they had in 1947. They don't even have the same clout or pull or influence or muscle that they had in 1997 or in 2007 or even in 2017. It's in steep and steady decline. And the only thing that is holding them up at this point, that is enabling them to continue having impunity in the world, is your pessimism, is your cynicism, is your hopelessness, is your defeatism, and your do-nothingism. You're helping them. So even while you're talking about how great it would be for them to be held to account, the very fact that you believe that they never can be held to account is the thing that will ensure that they won't be. It's only your pessimism. So I would say that everyone needs to get past that, push past that, and the way to begin that process is to act on the opposite. Act according to the opposite of your pessimism. Act according to, as if you were optimistic, as if you had backbone. Act like you have a backbone, even if you don't, because that's what we're doing. Every other measure that you can think about to hold America to account, or every other measure, like what we were talking about earlier, like talking about the veto, let's reform the veto power, let's reform the United Nations, let's dismantle the United Nations, on and on and on. All of these are ways of avoiding what actually has to happen, which is a direct confrontation with the world's greatest criminal. That's what has to happen. They have to be confronted, they have to be looked in the eye. Uncle Sam has to be looked in the eye and held to account, told what he did. The rap sheet has to be read out to him, and he has to be charged, and he has to be convicted. That's what has to happen. There's not another way around it. Anything else that you try to do is a half measure. Anything else that you try to suggest is a half measure, and it is doomed to failure, because you have to deal with the troublemaker. You're never going to stop the trouble until you get rid of the troublemaker. And there's only one way to do that right now, and that is to invoke Article 6 and get America expelled from the United Nations, so that then they can be held accountable to international law. And like Sister Nisa said, and like Brother Ali said, this is in the interest of the American people themselves, because your rights under international law are violated every day in that country, but you don't know it, because just like Sister Nisa said, you don't even regard yourselves as being a part of the world. That's the real dark side of American exceptionalism for the American citizens. For American citizens, the dark side of American exceptionalism is that you don't believe that you're a part of the rest of the world, and therefore international law doesn't apply to you. Well, it's against your interests to not have recourse to international law, because America is violating international law with regards to your basic human rights as a citizen of the planet, not as a citizen of that country. Just like Brother Ali was talking about with the police, so-called police violence, the security force violence in America, which if it was happening anywhere else in the world, it would be regarded as that, and would be treated as that, which is extrajudicial killings by the security forces. They don't call it that. They'll say it was a police shooting, justified, unjustified, mistake, accident, oops, whatever. But if it was happening anywhere else in the world, everyone can see by the sheer numbers, like you said, 1,400 people, that's not normal. 1,400 people murdered by the security forces in America last year, that's not normal. Also 640 school shootings in America just this year. That's not normal. You don't have a normal society. Your society operates as if it is in a war zone. But it's been normalized for you. You don't understand that your rights are being violated. Your rights under international law are being violated. And there's no way that you can get your rights until America is expelled from the United Nations and can be held to account. and can be held accountable. And like what Brother Ali was talking about with regards to the military-industrial complex, if America is, or rather I should say when America is expelled from the United Nations and is held accountable for its 8 decades of violations, then they will suffer economic sanctions, for example. That's one punitive measure that can be applied to the United States. At least 25% of the American economy is based on trade, is based on international trade. They run a trade deficit every year. They're even running a trade deficit this year for the first time, or I don't know if I think it was this year or maybe last year, for the first time, a trade deficit even in agricultural goods. They used to be the leader in exporting. They had a surplus, a trade surplus in agricultural goods. Now they're even down with regards to that, meaning that they are importing more than they're exporting. They're importing more from the rest of the world, including food, than they're exporting. So if they suffer sanctions, this is going to be very difficult for the American economy. And it's going to be particularly difficult for the military-industrial complex, because as we've been talking about, they secured their impunity through their domination of the United Nations, which is what has allowed them to start and perpetuate conflicts all around the world, so that they can keep funneling your tax dollars into the private sector, into the defense sector, into the weapons industry. That's why they do this, because they built their economy after World War II. The engine of their economy was military production. So they wanted to foment and perpetuate conflicts all around the world so that they could justify taking your tax dollars and giving it to Lockheed Martin, giving your tax dollars to Raytheon, giving your tax dollars to General Dynamics, and so forth. So now if they're not able to perpetuate these conflicts all around the world, because they will have lost their impunity, if they're not able to perpetuate these conflicts all around the world, then that money, they won't be able to continue funneling your tax dollars into the weapons sector, into the military-industrial complex. Which means that, I mean, you have to ask yourself, as an American citizen, whoever is here from the United States, ask yourself, are you happy with your tax dollars going to Raytheon? Are you happy with your tax dollars going to Lockheed Martin? Are you happy with your tax dollars going to General Dynamics? Or would you rather see your tax dollars going to healthcare? Would you rather see your tax dollars going for schools and education? Would you rather see your tax dollars going for free higher education, or at least affordable higher education? Would you like to see your tax dollars going to affordable housing? On and on and on. Would you like to see your tax dollars going to rebuilding infrastructure in your country so that your bridges don't break apart, so that your roads are drivable? Would you rather see that, or would you rather keeping the CEOs and the shareholders of Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and General Dynamics wealthy? Which would you rather see your tax dollars going to? Well, as long as the military-industrial complex keeps going, and as long as America continues to have the impunity that they have to start and perpetuate conflicts all around the world, you're never going to be free from that dysfunctional, predatory, parasitic economic system that you're under. And your tax dollars are going to keep coming out of your pocket and going right into the pockets of the wealthy in the private sector, in the weapons industry, in the defense sector. But if we can get rid of that problem, then maybe your tax dollars can start going to things that are in your interests as American citizens. And as I said, you might be able to also start getting your rights under international law, because the United Nations will be able to say when your rights, and you'll be able to bring a case to the United Nations, like Brother Ali was talking about with those so-called police shootings, with the security forces killing innocent people in so-called minority communities, which is, again, members of the global majority who happen to live in America. When you see that this is a systematic approach, there's only one conclusion that you can draw from that, which is that it is a form of ethnic cleansing, because they're targeting these communities. They're targeting black and brown communities in the United States. That's clear. They're targeting them with police violence, so-called police violence, security forces violence, extrajudicial killing, mass incarceration, what amounts to modern form of slavery in the prison system, where they force people to work for free, potentially for life. If they get a life sentence, you have enslaved these people. That's a system. That's systematic. That's not one officer, one rogue officer, one bad apple. No, the whole tree is sick, and the whole tree needs to be cut down. That means that not just that officer who goes into the so-called minority community and shoots someone. It's not only him that's supposed to go on trial. It's him, it's his commanding officer, it's the police commissioner, it's the mayor, it's the governor, it's the whole system that has to go on trial. And all of those people are supposed to be brought to The Hague. All of those people are supposed to be brought to the ICC for crimes against humanity, because that's what they're doing. But you don't know that that's what they're doing, because you don't know that you have rights under international law. You don't know that you have recourse, or you're supposed to have recourse to international law. And the only reason that you don't have recourse to international law is because your country has dominated the institution for the enforcement of international law. Therefore, international law never applies to you, and that's the dark side of American exceptionalism. So you need to support Article 6. You need to get rid of this pessimism. You need to get rid of this do-nothingism, because I would almost make an excuse for you if it was 30 years ago. I would almost make an excuse for you to not have a backbone and to think that it's impossible to confront the United States if it was 1994 instead of 2024. But in 2024, you have no excuse. In 2024, we have every right, we have every reason, and we have the power to confront the United States and call them on the carpet and accuse them of what they've done and see to it that justice is done. And the way to do that, again, please go to either my bio or the Middle Nation bio, or Sister Melor's bio, or Farouk's bio, and you can find the link to the petition. Sign the petition, share it with your family and friends. It will ask you for a donation. As Sister Nisa said, you don't have to make a donation. That donation goes to change.org, not to us anyway. So just opt out of that one, and just sign the petition and share it with your family and friends, and support this campaign. And inshallah, we can see a real, substantial, real world change, and America can be brought to justice, inshallah, which will mean justice not only for their global victims, but also justice for their domestic victims who don't even know that they are domestic victims.